opening the recording, and then after you have to write your roll number in the chat box. Huh? So start writing your roll numbers there for your attendance. Am I audible? Because no one is writing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
ma'am. You're
Okay, fine,
audible.
fine, fine. So now, as this is the first class of your semester 4 with me, and I have a lot to discuss with you on syllabus. It's again a huge syllabus, huh? So I don't think I have only 2 classes with you per week, but I don't think I can assure you that I will be able to cover everything in the 2 classes.
Ma'am, you're not audible. Ma'am, you're not audible.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Now
Yes,
you're audible.
Yes. So actually, this is the connectivity problem. Uh, anyway, so as I was telling you that it's not possible for me to finish the syllabus by 2 classes per week. So I was also thinking to take some more classes per week, but give me April, huh? In the May I will definitely start some more classes with you, but for the April, it's only 2 classes per week. Okay, but I can assure you that 2 classes is not at all enough to finish your syllabus. We need more. Anyway, so if you I think all of you have gone through your syllabus, so you have the imperfect market structure, so everything imperfect, so your syllabus is something imperfect. For sem 4, imperfect market structure, imperfect input market, and the general equilibrium analysis. It's a lot. So anyway, I'm not going to talk a lot about your syllabus. It's better to start. So this is our imperfectly market structure. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Can you?
ma'am.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So under imperfect market structure, if you can remember in your SEM 3, we have discussed about the perfectly competitive market structure. Okay, so here the imperfect, if there is perfect, so definitely there is something imperfect. So that imperfect is now in our syllabus. So there are different type of imperfection. Perfect is a singular one, but imperfection is different kinds. So based on the different type of imperfection, we may get different type of market structure. So in our syllabus, we have monopoly, just another extreme of the perfect competition. Then we have monopolistic competition. It's a combination of the monopoly and perfect competition. And then we will get the oligopoly. Okay, and oligopoly is the most realistic market structure. Okay, so from some ideal market structure, we will go to the realistic market structure. Okay, so we will discuss everything in details over the time. So this is the first thing in our imperfect market structure. The first imperfect market structure in our syllabus is monopoly. Okay, now what is monopoly? Monopoly, the term is very common to you. Monopoly means you are the sole authority, right? So sole authority in which term? You are the producer or you are the seller. So as a seller, you have the authority over your product. You have the authority over the market. Why? Because you are the single seller. Okay. So monopoly means single seller in the market. Okay. So this is the characteristics of the monopoly market structure. The first one is the single seller. In the market, there is a single seller who is called the monopolist. And there are many buyers. So there is no constraint, there is no restriction on the number of buyers. It may be one, it may be more than one. Basically, it is more than one. So we are not concerned about the buyer here as such. Okay, we are only concerned about the number of seller. And here, the number of seller is only one. So as you are the single seller, you are the price maker, right? Because you can now you can ask me that, okay, if I am the price maker, then may I charge any price of my product? The answer is no. You cannot do that. There are obviously some restriction, but finally you can decide the price. It's not like the perfectly competitive farm where the price is given. Okay, for the perfectly competitive farm, there is nothing to do with the price by the farm. It is given to them, they have to accept the price, and accordingly they will decide what to sell, how to sell, and everything. Okay? But here you can find out, you can what can I say, you can make the price. Okay, so this is called the price maker. Now if it is, so you can think that, okay, as a seller it's a beautiful situation. No, I can decide the price of my product, and I am the single one in the total market. So it's very fine for the producer. It's a great opportunity for the seller. He can do anything, so he can maximize his profit and all this. So the thing is how to get the monopoly. It's not God gifted. So how to get the monopoly in the market? How to get the monopoly over the market? So these are the reasons. There are many reasons, but these are the major reasons behind the monopoly power. The first one is the control over the raw materials. So if you have control over the raw material, then definitely you are the single seller. For example, if you are going to sell mineral water, generally, the mineral, nowadays the mineral waters are produced in factory, but generally the mineral waters are something are coming from the spring. So these are in some hilly areas where the one water is there. I can't remember the name. Himalaya or like this. This is basically the spring water. Himalaya nowadays it is not available, I think, but it was there in the. You may find a pink sort of bottle in the shopping mall, Himalaya water. So this is actually the spring water, because the spring water has a lot of mineral. So this is called the mineral water. So if somehow you have the control over this area where the spring is situated, then it means that you have the control over the raw material. Okay, you are the owner of that area where the spring is there. So that is how you have the sole authority to sell the mineral water of that company. Okay? So this is how, if somehow you can control the raw material, then it is very easy for you to be the monopolist of the seller of the product. Okay? So this is the one way. Second one is the patent. Patent is not made. Actually, patent is actually given by the government. Okay. So here I have to say you something regarding the patent. Do you know what is patent? Any idea about patent? Anyone in the class?
Ma'am, like copyrights or property rights against your own product or invention.
Yes. Copyright is a type of patent. Yes. Basically, this is the name of the patent. But actually, if you generalize the patent, then there are two types of patents. Patent means you have the right over your product. Okay, you have made something, and government has given you the right over your product that no one can copy your product. Okay, if it is, then it is illegal. So it's called patent, but there are two types of patent. One is the process patent, another one is a product patent. What is product patent? Product patent, for example, you have made one toothpaste. Fine. You are the owner of the toothpaste company, and government is giving you the patent over the toothpaste. That means the product. That means no one in the economy can produce toothpaste. Is it okay? So toothpaste is the product where you are getting the patent. So no one in the economy can produce toothpaste. This is called product patent. This is absurd. I'm just giving you one example. Now, what is process patent? Process patent is not like the control over the toothpaste. It is the process through which the toothpaste is produced. For example, there are some companies who are producing toothpaste, for example, Colgate, Pepsodent, any other company, just tell me. Right now, I can remember only these two names, Colgate and Pepsodent.
And
Anyone
Dabur.
else? Dabur, okay. Patanjali. So these are also there. So they are producing, actually the product is same, the toothpaste. You have to use it to clean your teeth. Okay. But the process are different. The process through which the Colgate is producing toothpaste is not same as as it is used by the Pepsodent, as it is used by Patanjali, as it is used by Dabur. So their processes are different. But final product is the toothpaste as a whole. But the process through which the toothpaste is produced by Colgate cannot be followed by any other person. They have the right, they have the control over their own process. This is called process patent. Okay, so no one can copy the process. You can do the product, you can make the product through your own process, but don't follow the same process which the Colgate is following, which the Pepsodent is following. They have the right over their own process. This is called process patent. Now the thing is, what is the difference? The difference is, in case of process patent, look, when I'm giving process patent, there is Colgate, there is Pepsodent, there is Dabur, etc., etc. So many companies are there. So it is very hard to have monopoly over the toothpaste. So many competitors are there to sell the product. But if it is product patent, as I said initially, that over the toothpaste, one company has the sole right. No one can produce toothpaste. So here comes the monopoly. Okay. So if patent over the new invention doesn't mean always that it is monopoly. If the patent is over the product, then only there is a chance to have monopoly. In case of process patent, it's better to say it's a monopolistic competition. When we will discuss it, you can understand. But patent over the new invention, it's better to say specifically it's product patent over the new invention. Okay, so this is our second point. This is another reason behind the monopoly. Now, third one, economies of scale and natural monopoly. Economies of scale is what? Okay, when we have to discuss about the natural monopoly as well, because natural monopoly sometimes short note is coming on natural monopoly. What is natural monopoly? Explain like that. So there we have to explain about the natural monopoly with the help of the economies of scale. We will discuss it in details, but for the time being, let me explain it in short. That in case of economies of scale, it is like, can you remember the shape of your LSE curve, which is U-shaped? And can you tell me what is the returns to scale if your LSE curve is downward sloping? Can you get my point? I am asking,
Please
when
repeat the
you
question.
yeah, When your long run average cost curve is downward sloping, then which type of returns to scale is there? LSE curve is U-shaped. Initially it
Ma'am,
is downward sloping.
increasing returns.
It is?
IRS.
Yes, IRS, increasing returns to scale, right. So this is called economies of scale, right? Increasing returns to scale is called economies of scale. So what it is? Why it is helping to get the monopoly? If say your market is such that the demand is very small as compared to your capacity. Okay, so your capacity, your production capacity, I should say, so production capacity is huge as compared to the market's size. So the demand curve is like that, it is going through the downward sloping portion of your LSE curve. So your LSE, let me draw it, then you can understand. তো কথা বলা যাচ্ছে না, দাঁড়াও। Look, this is your, as I said, it's downward. So this is your LSE curve. And demand is, actually your LSE is U-shaped. But right now it is only this, and the demand is going through this. Okay, this is the demand curve of the market. So now look, if you are going to produce more and more as your LSE is downward sloping, your average cost is falling. So you can charge lower and lower price for your product, right? Do you agree with me?
Ma'am, please repeat the last point again.
Yes, yes. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Because my sound is not okay for me. Anyway, what I am saying that if your LSE curve is downward sloping like this, if your LSE curve is downward sloping, then if you are going to produce more and more, your average cost is falling, right? If your average cost is falling, then you can charge lower and lower price for more and more product.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that means you are in a better position, that you, okay, you are ready to sell more commodity at a lower price, right? You can sell more commodity at the lower price. More you can sell, more lesser price you will charge. More you can sell, lesser price you can charge. So you are in that position. Okay, and if it is, and market is like this, then you are enough to sell the market, you are enough to cater the market. No one can compete with you because you are in such a condition that you can sell the product at lower price. Okay, if the market is demanding more and more commodity from you, you can sell it easily at lower and lower price. And if it is, no one can compete with you. For initial 10 units, you are charging 20 rupees. When you are going to sell 30 units, you can charge 10 rupees. So if this is your strategy, if you can do this, then no one can compete with you. No? You are charging lower and lower price. So this is the price competition you are doing with your rivals. And they cannot compete with you. And why you can do that? Because you are not making any charity, you are not making any loss for you. You can do this because your average cost curve is downward sloping. Okay, so that economies of scale is helping you to charge lower price for higher commodity, more commodity. Okay, so this is called natural monopoly. So natural monopoly is because of the shape and the position of your LSE curve. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Now the market franchise. Market franchise means sometimes there are some firms. For example, there are 2 or 3 sellers in the market. they are selling the same type of commodity, and after some times they are looking that, okay, if we are going to compete among ourselves, then it is not good for all of us. So it's better to make a collusion. Not the collusion, it's better to make a cartel. I should say it's a cartel. So it's a group. Okay, it's a group. So just make a group, and just like OPEC, make a group and work as a single unit. Okay, so our strategy should be same, the price will be same, and that will be like a monopoly. Okay, so we are working like a monopolist, and then we can control the market, we can make the price. So we will just forget about the competition among ourselves, we will be united and be a single unit, just like a single unit, and all the strategies will be same. So it's called market franchise. Okay, and the first movers advantage. First movers advantage
Just
is,
explain this point once again.
okay. After finishing the last point, I may go there. Let me finish the last one. First movers advantage. First movers advantage means it's like in a market, it's like a venture capital. All of you must know about the venture capital. It's a new entry in the market. So if you are coming in the market, it's a very common, that venture capital is very common when you are going to study the um, management, basically. So if you are entering in the market first, I'm not telling you the market of the Jogu Bazar market or like this. It's the market of a particular commodity. Okay, it may be the good, it may be the service. If you are going to enter in this type of commodity market first, definitely you will have the advantage initially, at least. So you are the first comer as a seller in that market. So you have the monopoly over the product. Now, after some time, if some competitors will come, that I don't know. But for the time being, as you are the first who enters in the market, so you will definitely get some advantage. You definitely have some control over the market. This is called the first movers advantage. This is how you may get the monopoly. Yes. Regarding the first one, control over the raw materials. If you somehow control the raw materials through which you are going to produce the final product, then definitely you have the monopoly over the final product. These are the different ways. I'm not telling you that all ways must be there at the same time. Any of the ways can help you to get the monopoly. So these are the reasons behind the monopoly, to have the monopoly. Okay. Now, once you have the monopoly, what is your objective? As a producer, always your objective is to maximize the profit. Okay. So here also your objective is to maximize the profit. So it's written by me. You can understand. So profit is pi P into Q. Here comes the difference between the monopoly and perfect competition. If you can remember, in case of your perfect competition, P was written as P bar. But here, as you are the price maker, here P is a function of Q. Q is the quantity sold. Okay. So so your demand function is not like P bar, it's P function of Q into Q, quantity sold, minus C function of Q. So that part is very similar to the perfect competition. The only difference is here. So your first order condition is like this: MR is equal to MC. Your second order condition is MC intersects MR from below. Okay. So you know your MC curve is U-shaped. So an MR curve is downward sloping, right? So your MC curve, when it is upward sloping, then only you will get the stable equilibrium in the monopoly. So this is the diagram. Look, your demand curve is like this, downward sloping. You know the MR curve is half of the demand curve, so it's below the demand curve. and your MC is this. So equilibrium, the first order condition is MR is equal to MC. It is at E. And second order condition is MC intersects MR from below. It's nothing, it's just double differentiation of your profit function. From there you will get it. So MC intersects MR from below, so you are getting it also at E. Look, MC is intersecting MR from below. So that means the slope of the MR is less than slope of the MC. So MC should be positively sloped, and MR you know it is always negatively sloped. So that is how you are concluding that it is intersecting MR from below. Okay. So here it is. So equilibrium is this, but you know it is equilibrium, but it is not the equilibrium. You cannot find price here. Equilibrium price should not be here. It will be along the demand curve. That is why you have to increase that line up to the demand curve, then you will get the P star. Okay. So Q star is coming very easily, but for P star you have to raise that line up to the demand curve. Okay. So any question up to this point? Any query? And look, it is not possible to go back. So as you know, the time is very limited. In the last semester, you could see that how we are fighting to finish the syllabus. So that is why I am telling you, if you have any problem, ask in the particular class. Okay? If you have any query, listen the class carefully and ask in the particular class, because it may not be possible for us to repeat to revise. I don't know when your exam will start, but I hope I will not get so many times to revise and all this. So it's better to ask the question then and there.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, the line from equilibrium to that intersection of demand curve. Yes, ma'am. So what does that denote? Like,
You have
is
to
it like
find out.
it's a
No. Yeah, we are trying to find out the equilibrium price and quantity. Fine. So the equilibrium is here. So equilibrium quantity is here. Now, how to get the equilibrium price? Generally, what we are doing, this is the demand curve, this is the supply curve, this is the equilibrium. From there, we are drawing one line parallel to the horizontal axis showing the equilibrium price. That is what we did, right? But here we cannot do that because the intersection is on the MR, and MR is not AR here. AR is greater than MR. AR curve is the demand curve showing the price. So we have to raise that line up to the demand curve to find out the equilibrium price.
okay, ma'am, understood.
And this gap is because of the elasticity. So that we will discuss when we will discuss about the social loss due to the monopoly. This part is also in our syllabus. The deadweight loss. You know, any type of control over the market will create welfare loss. Any type of control, maybe by the producer, maybe by the consumer, maybe by the government. Any intervention, any control over the market will create the welfare loss. So here, as it is controlled by, now the market is controlled by the producer, definitely there is social welfare loss. So when we will discuss, then you can see this is nothing but the welfare loss. This area is nothing but the welfare loss. But we will discuss it. So this is the equilibrium. Any other question? Up to this point, any other question? Let me have some. Okay. Now, what is the objective of the monopolist? The objective of the monopolist is to, I have to finish it by 45. Yes. So objective of the monopolist is to have the profit, right? But the question is it whether this equilibrium condition is assuring the profit? My answer is no, it is not assuring. Because if you can remember, you can find the profit and loss through the comparison of the average cost and average revenue, right? Because if you multiply your average cost into price, then you will not the average, sorry, I'm very sorry. If you are multiplying average cost with the quantity, then you will get the total cost, right? If you multiply average revenue with the quantity, then you will get the total revenue. So if total revenue is greater than total cost, then only it's a profit, right? So you need average cost. But I want to say that to find out the profit or loss of the monopolist, you have to know the position of the average cost. But in your equilibrium, there is no concept of average cost. No concept, only marginal revenue and marginal cost is enough to find out the equilibrium. So if, now look at this, and also again in this diagram also there is no concept of average cost. Okay, so look, if your average cost is AC1, if your average cost is AC1, that means it is going like this. It is just tangent on the demand curve at this point, corresponding to P star. Okay, it is tangent at the demand curve corresponding to P star. So you can understand for the equilibrium, P star is equal to average cost. So total revenue is equal to total cost. So there is no profit as such. Okay, no profit, no loss situation. If your average cost curve is AC3, so your average revenue is this one, your average cost is far more, greater than your demand. So AC is greater than AR. So total cost is greater than total revenue. So it's a loss. But if the average cost is AC2, then for the equilibrium, AC is less than AR. AR means the demand curve. Okay. So AC is less than AR. So total cost is less than total revenue. So it is a profit. So profit is depending on the position of the average cost of the monopolist. But in case of the profit maximizing condition, there is no such information on the average cost. So it may possible that you may have loss. So monopolist doesn't mean always a profit. If your average cost is at AC3, it's quite possible, then you may get loss. But obviously, in the long run, monopolist cannot do that. In the long run, obviously, AC2 will be there. Somehow, monopolist will arrange its average cost. He will restructure its production such that it will be a profit in the long run at least. Okay. Here comes another very common but clumsy sort of diagram. Just a minute. This is the last diagram of today's class. Yes. Look at this. The derivation of the demand curve. No, hey Baba. Just a minute. Derivation of the supply curve of the monopolist. So what we are dealing, in case of the perfect competition, again I'm going back to the perfect competition just to make it easy for you. In case of perfect competition, we derive the supply curve of the perfectly competitive industry, right? Even in the long run, first of all, in the short run, what we did, we said that okay, it is for the farm level, it is the marginal cost curve of the perfectly competitive farm above the shutdown point, right? Can you remember? The supply curve of the firm, supply curve of the perfectly competitive firm in the short run is the marginal cost curve above the shutdown point. Can you remember? ভুলে গেছো সব? এক মাসের মধ্যে কি করে ভুলে গেলে?
Yes, ma'am.
এক মাসের মধ্যে ভুলে গেলে?
No, ma'am, didn't forget about it.
Okay, so you know that. You can remember it. Fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the horizontal summation of all the supply curves is giving you the industry supply curve in the short run, but in the long run, we have to consider the economies of scale, these economies of scale, that means CRS, IRS, DRS, and depending on that, the supply curve may be upward rising, parallel to the horizontal axis, or maybe downward sloping. So that we did. But here, in case of monopolist, how to find out the supply curve? The thing is, in case of, the question is very common. If you go through last question papers, you can find, is there any supply curve of the monopolist? Explain. Draw the supply curve of the monopolist. This type of questions are coming. So the answer is, in case of the monopoly, there is no supply curve. Why? Because as you are the price maker, the monopolist is the price maker. So depending on the demand curve, they can change the price. Okay, price maker doesn't mean that you can charge any price. You can change the price. That is the price making. Okay, you can change the price depending on the position, slope, elasticity of the demand curve. Remember, price making doesn't, I'm repeating again, price making doesn't mean that you can ask any price. Price making means you can change the price of your product depending on the demand schedule. Okay, now look the first diagram, why it is. Look at the first diagram. In the first diagram, there are two demand curves. That brown one is the D1 and this purple one is the D2. Okay, and they are such that two MR curves are intersecting at this point and MC curve is going through this point. Okay, so MR is equal to MC. This is our equilibrium condition. So this is true. E is the equilibrium for both the markets. Okay, D1 is another market, D2 is another market. For both the markets, E is the equilibrium. But depending on the position of the demand curve, from the first market, the monopolist is asking P1. Okay, and from the second market, the monopolist is asking P2, depending on the demand curve. So look what is happening. A single quantity is sold by the monopolist, by a single seller, because MC is same. MC is a single one. Okay, so a single seller is selling the single unit at different prices. Now look at the second diagram. Again, the demand curves are different. Two markets are there, D1 and D2. But it's like that. In the first market, for the D1, the equilibrium is here. And given that equilibrium, the price is P bar. For the second market, the equilibrium is here. MC is equal to MR. And the price is again P bar. So, and the quantity, look at the quantity. For the first market, the monopolist is selling Q1. For the second market, monopolist is selling Q2, but charging the same price, P bar. So again, depending on the demand curve's position, he can sell different quantities at the same price. Okay, so what is the conclusion? Same quantity at different prices. At the same price, different quantities. So he can change his price and quantity in this way, depending on the demand. So if there is no one-to-one correspondence between price and quantity, so you cannot draw the supply curve. Supply curve is showing the relationship between price and quantity. But if you are very much variable in terms of the price for a single quantity or opposite, then how you are getting that one-to-one correspondence? No one-to-one correspondence. Everything is depending on the demand curve. Okay, everything is depending on the AR curve. So that is why it is not possible to draw the supply curve of the monopolist. Try practicing to draw these two diagrams. If this question will come, you have to draw these diagrams. So keep practicing to draw these diagrams, because it's a bit clumsy. You have to have some skill to draw it. Very easy. Look, I have only 1 minute. So just look. First, when you will draw the first diagram, now, whatever your demand curves, D1, D2, to MI should be in a single point and MC should go through it. Okay, that is the trick to draw the first diagram. And for the second one, make MC very flat and make D1 also very flat. Okay, then you may get, I think second diagram is more difficult than first diagram. So keep practicing, then you can do that. Okay. So I have to discuss a lot about the monopolist. Only 8 slides I can discuss today. But anyway, in the next class, I will, hopefully I can finish it. Okay. We have only 5 minutes left to start MMM class. If you have any query, take 1 minute more and ask me. If you have any query, I think no. Okay. So in that case, I am going to leave the class. Hopefully in the next